Before we start, if you haven't watched the first episode of our series yet, run there and check it out in the previous video. That's where it all began, and you won't want to miss any details to understand what's to come in this episode. Clara wakes up early, as always, with the first rays of sunlight invading the small apartment in Montmartre. She spends the first few minutes trying to stave off her fatigue, staring up at the ceiling as the sounds of the city begin to fill the space around her. The apartment is simple but cozy, with walls adorned with pictures of places she dreams of visiting. But despite the charm of her home and the beauty of Paris, Clara feels a constant sense of emptiness. She gets ready for work, and as she walks down the stairs of the building, her mind can't shake the memory of the accident. She finds herself thinking about Gabriel. His eyes, the genuine concern he showed, and the uncomfortable feeling he caused by entering her life in such an unexpected way. The day starts like any other, but there is a slight restlessness in the air, a feeling that something is about to change. Meanwhile, Gabriel is also preparing for work. Your luxury apartment in the Place Vendôme area is quiet and impeccably tidy, with stunning views of the city. But unlike Clara, Gabriel does not take pleasure in the views or the tranquility that his space offers. He is a man of action, always on the move, and the stillness of his home only reinforces the sense of emptiness that haunts him. He can't get Clara out of his head. His obsession with meeting at the cafe and the impact of the accident intensify as the day goes on. Gabriel tries to concentrate on his work, but his mind is constantly focused on the young doctor, who, apparently, has nothing in common with him. The intensity with which she challenged him, resisting his help and trying to push him away, only increased his curiosity. There's something about Clara that awakens something deep in Gabriel, something he can't ignore. Throughout the morning, Clara tries to immerse herself in hospital tasks, but her thoughts keep coming back to Gabriel. She notices that the day is heavier than usual, and the pressure of the hospital routine makes her feel even more distant from any genuine emotional connection. She tries to focus on the patients, on the emergencies, but Gabriel's image keeps emerging, bringing with it a sense of mismatch. How could someone so different from her invade her mind in this way? The afternoon progresses, and as if fate were once again dictating its actions, Clara and Gabriel end up meeting again, but in an unexpected way. Clara is leaving the hospital after a long shift, when while crossing the street in a hurry, she comes across Gabriel, who is inside a luxury car, stopped in traffic. He sees her immediately, his gaze fixed on her, and for a moment, time seems to slow down. Without thinking, Gabriel gets out of the car and approaches her, with a smile that mixes surprise and a twinge of humor. Clara, who initially didn't know how to react, is forced to face again this man who, despite his insistence, seemed to have something more to offer than the arrogant first impression. "Clara," he says, trying to break the ice, I didn't expect to find you here." His voice has a softness that contrasts with his normally rigid posture, and Clara, not sure what to say, just smiles back, a little uncomfortable. "I wasn't expecting that either," she replies, trying to keep her composure. Gabriel observes her ankle, which is still partially immobilized, and with a touch of concern in his voice, asks if she is okay. Clara, annoyed with herself by the way her body reacts to her presence, tries to disguise the slight feeling of discomfort. She looks away, focusing on another point of the street. "I'm fine, really. I just don't know how. This accident seems to have put me in a spiral of unexpected encounters." Gabriel smiles slightly, acknowledging the reference to their first meeting. But instead of walking away, he suggests that she accompany him for coffee, offering an opportunity for a quieter conversation. Clara hesitates, but something about her makes her accept. They enter a nearby cafe, and the mood between them, while still tense, begins to soften. As they sit and talk, Gabriel asks questions about Clara's work, her passions, and what motivated her to pursue medicine, a challenging career. Clara, in turn, begins to question Gabriel about his life, his company, and how he managed to get so far. But as the conversation progresses, Clara realizes that despite the initial sympathy, they are still in such different worlds that true connection seems distant. The conversation is punctuated by moments of uncomfortable silence, but somehow there is also a slight tension rising in the air. Clara begins to feel divided, attracted by the calm that Gabriel seems to convey, but at the same time afraid to get emotionally involved. She knows that their lives are too complicated for a simple coffee date to change anything. When the coffee comes to an end, they both stand up, and before saying goodbye, Gabriel watches her for a moment, his expression softer. "I know we're not friends, Clara, but maybe we can start over, without the accident, without pressure. What do you think?" Clara, who was about to politely decline, feels a wave of doubt. She doesn't have clear answers, but there's something about Gabriel that challenges her to think differently. She agrees, but only with a brief smile, which leaves open the possibility of something more. When they say goodbye, the air between them seems lighter, but the unresolved issues still remain. Clara returns to the hospital, and Gabriel, when he returns to his car, gets lost in thought. They both know that despite trying to keep things simple and distant, the future is taking them in a direction they still can't fully comprehend. The following days follow a peculiar rhythm for Clara and Gabriel. They both try to return to their usual routine, but a lingering sense that something else binds them together begins to take shape. For Clara, the memories of coffee with Gabriel are not easy to ignore, and what should be a simple chance encounter becomes a constant in her thoughts. She begins to question herself about what is really happening. Why would someone like Gabriel, with his seemingly perfect life and unknown problems, have cared so much about a simple accident? Something else must be behind this gesture of help, something she can't fully understand. She tries to focus on her work, her patients, the emergency room, and the daily tasks, but there is always a part of her mind that escapes to that moment shared with Gabriel. At the hospital, Clara is constantly reminded of the emotional difficulties she faces in dealing with lives that are in her hands, and the pressure mounts. She has always had a passion for medicine, but the overload of responsibilities and the little time to take care of herself make her question what she really expects from life. While dealing with the physical pain of others, Clara seems to carry an emotional pain that she doesn't know how to heal. The work, which was supposed to be an outlet, now seems just a reminder that she is far from something more meaningful. Meanwhile, Gabriel is also in an internal battle. He returns to his executive routine, surrounded by luxury and perfection, but inside him, the feeling that something is missing only intensifies. He tries to focus on meetings and business decisions, but Clara's thought keeps seeping into his mind. She's an unknown to him, a woman so different from anyone he's ever been involved with. While he leads his company with confidence, he knows he's walking away from something that really matters. And deep down, he feels that this something is Clara. In the days that follow, he finds himself constantly revisiting the coffee, the words they exchanged, her gaze. When he's in his huge boardroom, surrounded by his team and discussing the company's next steps, a part of his mind is wandering to what could have been, what could become with Clara. He knows he can't get carried away by nostalgia for a seemingly trivial encounter, but the connection he has experienced with it is stronger than any business logic. Gabriel is wondering if what attracts him to Clara is the very need for something different in his life, something that transcends business and social conventions. The next night, Gabriel decides to do something he never imagined doing. He contacts Clara. He picks up the phone, hesitates for a moment, and with a confused mind, sends a simple, almost shy message. "Do you have any time this week to talk again? Just to clear up a few things that are in my head." Clara receives the message while she is at home, alone in her apartment. She stares at her phone screen for a few seconds, feeling a mixture of surprise and apprehension. On the one hand, she was already waiting for Gabriel to approach again. On the other, she didn't know how to deal with the idea of another date. What did he want, she wonders, but can't help but be curious. She spends some time pondering until she decides to answer, albeit cautiously. I really don't know what you expect from me, Gabriel, but I think we could talk, yes. And this is how a new meeting is established, once again without great expectations, but with a palpable feeling that between them something greater is at stake. Clara and Gabriel arrange to meet at the same cafe where they had their first date. This time, however, the tension in the air is stronger, almost electric. They both feel that fate is somehow pulling them into something they can't control. When Clara arrives, Gabriel is already there, waiting. Time seems slower this time, as if the hours dragged on, waiting to reveal what was yet to come. They exchange a look, loaded with unspoken meanings, and the silence between them is comfortable, but at the same time disconcerting. Clara, I don't know how to explain this, but from the day I met you, something has changed inside me, Gabriel begins bluntly, with a sincerity that Clara wasn't expecting. I thought it was just a coincidence, that I could move on, but I couldn't. I can't stop thinking about you. Clara watches him for a moment, the surprise reflecting in her eyes. She never imagined hearing those words from Gabriel, but at the same time, something inside her responds to her sincerity. Curiosity, which was once mixed with resistance, now mixes with a sense of understanding. She feels that he is also lost, just like her, trying to find something meaningful in the chaos of their lives. You can't expect everything to change overnight, Gabriel, Clara replies, her voice softer than she imagined. I am a doctor. My life is complicated, full of demands. I don't have room for a last-minute romance. Gabriel watches her, acknowledging the fear and hesitation in her words. But he also feels that there is something more there, something that both have not yet fully understood. I understand, but I think we can give it a chance, even if it's just to get to know each other better. Clara, feeling a mixture of conflicting emotions, agrees to take this step. Just don't expect me to have easy answers for everything. I'm not a person who knows what he wants. I know, Gabriel says with a quiet smile. I don't know what to expect either. But maybe this is the beginning of something important. As they continue to talk, the surrounding scenery seems to disappear. Paris, with its bustling streets and twinkling lights, becomes a distant frame as Clara and Gabriel begin to open up to each other. However, what started as a simple coffee becomes another chapter in a story that is far from being resolved. But revelations continue to emerge, and neither Clara nor Gabriel know that their past is about to return in full force, bringing to light buried secrets that could forever transform everything they set out to build. While the coffee fades around them, Clara and Gabriel continue to be immersed in a conversation that little by little reveals layers that until then were hidden. As the words flow between them, the environment becomes more intimate, safer. Clara, who used to be so closed and distant, now finds herself more willing to share her insecurities and fears. Gabriel, in turn, begins to reveal a facet of his personality that he himself did not know was so well guarded. A vulnerability that he has always tried to hide behind the facade of a successful businessman. I've never said this to anyone, but Gabriel begins, his voice softer than Clara has ever heard. He looks at the coffee cup, as if he's looking for the courage to continue. My family, it's not what everyone imagines. Things have never been easy for me. He pauses, searching for the right words, before indulging in what seems to be a disturbing thought. I carry a lot of weight, Clara. The success that people see, the money, the company, all of this in some way is empty. I always sought my father's approval, but I was never good enough for him. That's it. It still hurts me, more than I'd like to admit. Clara watches him in silence, her eyes softening as she realizes the pain he tries to hide. She didn't know any of this. The image of Gabriel, the unbeatable businessman, always seemed unattainable, almost far from any emotional weakness. But now she sees that behind the confidence he projects, there is a person who still struggles with the weight of his own insecurities. "I understand," Clara replies, softening her expression. "Me too. Sometimes I have a hard time dealing with my own choices, the hospital, the patients, the constant pressure. I got so lost in taking care of others that I forgot to take care of myself." She lets out a deep sigh, almost as if the weight of her own words is making her lighter. "I'm a good doctor, but sometimes I feel like I'm not a good person. I miss something, but I don't know what it is." Clara's answer surprises her. She, with all her dedication, with her commitment to saving lives and doing good, also feels that something in her life is out of place. Gabriel feels a connection with her that grows with each word exchanged, as if his fears and anxieties were closer than he imagined. He sees in Clara someone who carries her own internal battles, someone who, like him, seeks a way out of her own dilemmas. However, the conversation is abruptly interrupted, as if fate is again interfering with their plans. Gabriel's phone vibrates on the table, and he picks it up with a quick movement. When you look at the screen, your expression changes instantly. The soft smile he was wearing disappears, and a shadow of worry passes across his face. Clara notices the change and observes it carefully. "Sorry, I need to attend to this," Gabriel says, his voice now charged with urgency. "It's a job thing." Clara nods, but her curiosity grows. What could be so important as to interrupt this very significant moment between them? She watches Gabriel as he pulls back a bit, speaking in a lower, more urgent tone, his brow furrowed, clearly worried about what he's hearing on the other end of the line. She can't help but feel a slight sense of unease. Something is going on, something that she doesn't fully understand yet, but that somehow involves her more than she would like to admit. Gabriel's words are drowned out by distance, but his tone of voice, the expressions on his face, reveal a situation that goes beyond simple corporate work. She tries not to get carried away by the anxiety that begins to grow inside her, but the fact that Gabriel seems so out of control, so different from the self-assured figure he demonstrated, makes her even more intrigued. When he finally hangs up the phone, Gabriel walks back to the table, but the tension in the air is palpable. Clara doesn't ask anything, but the silence between them carries a new, denser tension. He seems disconcerted, almost disconnected from everything around him. He looks at Clara, hesitates for a moment, and then says, I don't know if I can go on with this, Clara. There are things in my past, things that I never imagined they would need to come to light." He looks at her, his eyes darker now. "I'm not who you think I am." Clara stares at him, confused and worried. "What's going on, Gabriel? What are you trying to tell me?" He sighs, trying to find the words, but nothing feels right. The weight of what he is about to reveal is too great, and he knows that the consequences of this can be even more profound. Gabriel stands up, picking up his jacket, his posture now marked by insecurity. I need to go. There's something I need to solve, Clara. Something that, in some way, involves you too." Clara watches him leave quickly, feeling a growing emptiness form in her chest. What did Gabriel mean by this? And why does she feel that everything that is happening between them is just the tip of the iceberg of something much more complex and dangerous? She sits there, not knowing what to do. The cafe is now empty, and the echo of his words hangs in the air, along with the sense that something much bigger is about to happen. As night approaches, Clara wonders what this will mean for her. What is Gabriel hiding? And how will she deal with the mess he has brought into her life? And more importantly, what hasn't he said yet? In the next episode, the truths Gabriel has been hiding begin to surface, and Clara finds herself in the middle of a revelation that puts her in a difficult position, forcing her to make decisions that will change the course of history forever. Gabriel's past is closer than Clara could have imagined, and the impact of this on both of them will be devastating. Don't miss it.